please.
In attendance tonight, we have Dave Ouellette, Rich McNeil, Counselor Bruce Cheney, Mike Delavecchia, Charlie St. Clair, Kristen Bastille, Planning Director Rob Mora, Assistant Planner Tyler Carmichael, and I'm the Recording Secretary, Savannah Brunel.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Look for a motion to accept the the minutes from the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, just raise your hands. No opposition. Okay, thank you. So we'll go right ahead with the meeting then. And it's 7.1, we've got PB 2025-004. That's 155 Lake Street. And they're proposing a change from a single-family to a multifamily use. We need acceptance for that, I take it. So I'll look for a motion to accept the plan.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. You raise yours? Okay, fine. Keep it up here, please. Okay, no opposition to that, so we will begin with that. Is the applicant here? If you'll be so kind as just tell us your name and your address, thank you.
Sure, my name is David Henrik, and I'm representing the 155 Lake Street project.
Okay, what is it you'd like to do?
We're taking the building and converting into 4 units that sits within all the zoning and requirements. We met with each department, from fire, police, planning, zoning, assessors office, and we've met all requirements to date. The last piece of information I gathered was the DPW asked me to have the sewer scoped to make sure the property is capable of handling the sewer, and it came back very favorable. I provided them with the videotape, and so we're here just to get a final approval to, add additional tax revenue for the city, and we're gonna be
We
hooking up.
don't care about that,
Yeah,
we just want everything to be
No,
clear.
of course not.
Well, it doesn't come in my pocket, but it, it just helps everybody. But
Sure.
If
So,
anybody in the public doesn't know where this is, it's right at the intersection of White Oaks Road and where Lake Street turns into Weirs Boulevard, right there up on the hill. Used to be the Windmill Restaurant,
That's correct.
a long time ago.
Someone just sent me a picture from
God, that's
back then.
been a
It was
while.
pretty neat, pretty nostalgic.
Okay, does anybody on the board have any questions of the applicant?
I've got a question. On your print, you're gonna remove a column? It says remove the column. I'm just concerned, did somebody look at that from a structural standpoint?
Yeah, my structural engineer did that. It's all been taken care of. It's already been engineered with beams for
Put
that.
an LVL or
That's
something
correct,
there. Okay.
absolutely. It's a triple LVL that they've already put in place.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll, if you could have a seat, Dave, we'll open it up to a public hearing.
Sure.
And we'll open up the public hearing at 6:34. For anybody in the audience, be they abutters or just somebody from the town who has any commentary that they'd like to let us know about. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 6:34:40. Over to staff.
All right. So for this one, it's pretty much basic standard conditions of approval. They went to TRC and we gathered all the department's input from that. So I'll go ahead and read those into the record. So first and foremost, the pre-construction requirements. All conditions in this section must be completed at least 2 weeks prior to commencing any work on site. The first condition in this section will be permits and approvals. The applicant must possess all required permits and approvals granted by other municipal, state, and federal boards or agencies. All permits and approvals must be in place prior to the signing and recording of the final plans in Mylar. Should any permit or approval be revoked at any time during the project, all work must cease until a new permit or approval is obtained. Copies of all permits and approvals must be provided by the applicant to the planning department upon request. The second one is deposit for inspections. The applicant must provide the Laconia Water Department with the required deposit amount for inspection services. For sewer inspection, the sewer service must be cleaned and inspected via CCTV. A certified inspection report must be submitted to the Department of Public Works for review and approval. Final plans. 4 final plan sets must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the planning department. The final plan sets must include a floor plan for each unit. The next set of conditions must be met during the construction of the project. The first one is water service box. The water service box and curb stop must be repaired or replaced. The backflow device, a meter and testable double-check backflow device must be installed. Both the meter and backflow device must be in a heated and accessible location. Water specifications, all specifications for municipal water service required by the water department apply to all construction. For the third section here, all these conditions in this section must be met prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy. First, the solid waste. Private solid waste collection must be provided. If a dumpster is used, it must be screened. Water department inspection. The Laconia Water Department must inspect and approve all plumbing work. Impact fees in the amount of $3,481.37 per new dwelling unit must be paid to the planning department prior to the issuance of each certificate of occupancy. In accordance with RSA 674-39, the applicant is exempt from any changes to impact fees for 5 years from the approval date. Should the project not be completed during the exemption period, the applicant must pay any and all increases to impact fees regardless of vestment status. An as-built design for each dwelling unit must be submitted to the planning department for review and approval in accordance with the city's policies and procedures at the time of submission. And finally, the project and all associated conditions must be completed by no later than October 1st, 2029. If all conditions are not met, nor any extension application filed with the Laconia Planning Department by the completion date, this approval is null and void. That's that.
Excellent job, Tyler. I'm just gonna add into the findings of fact. The application is complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations, and the application and site plan were reviewed by the Technical Review Committee at its September 17th meeting. Their comments have been incorporated into the recommended conditions of the approval.
Covered everything. Any questions of staff? Come on up, Dave. You've got till 2029. I suspect you're not gonna be that long getting this completed.
If I get my windows in soon, yeah, we should be buttoned up pretty quick.
Well, I think this is really a good project for the city as a whole. And any housing units we can add is nothing but a win situation
Absolutely.
for everybody.
Yep.
So I look forward to seeing the completion of it. Any last comments from the board here?
I had one question for you, Dave. On the overview, what is the, I assume we're talking this building right here, correct?
Yes.
It's being what
Yeah, that's correct.
What is this building here?
There's a dwelling, it's a 3-bedroom dwelling house there.
Okay, and is that gonna stay the same?
That's gonna stay there, and then right next to it's a garage, 2-car garage.
And that would
That's
stay?
gonna stay the same for now. We may do something later on, but the house will stay there. The garage may be renovated later on. We'll apply for building permits for that.
What
when
we're
we do
talking
the-
about is this?
Just the
structure.
one structure up front, that's correct.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion. Up or down?
I'll make a motion to approve PB 2025-004, 155 Lake Street.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay. Any more commentary? Okay, all in favor, raise your hands, please. That's 5 in the affirmative, so it passes. Have fun.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing it up and running.
It'll be great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to 7.2 now. This is PB 2025-009, 1160, and 1182 Union Avenue. Applicant is proposing to merge the two lots and construct a 60-unit condominium building. We need a motion to accept.
Yes.
So I look forward to a motion here to accept. Somebody? So moved by Michael, seconded,
Second?
okay. All in favor, raise your hands. Without objection, okay, thank you.
Yeah, let me go take a look.
Yeah.
We'll have a little delay here just for a second, ladies and gentlemen.
Time to set up.
That sounds like velvet.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's a guy.
There's a guy in a bicycle.
We get in trouble now.
Talking to somebody in a gray SUV. Unfriendly. I think it escalated.
That is big.
All the bathrooms are here. So they hang out right here.
They're sending an officer.
Should I move on? Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your indulgence, everybody. The floor is yours. Just get your name and address.
Yes, so for the record, Sam Foisey with Meridian Land Services. We are located out of Amherst at 31 Old Nashua Road. I am the engineer on this plan. I also have one of the owners, Bill, in the audience, and then the architect, Ann, as well, if there's any questions related to the operations of the site as well, and then any questions related to the building. So to, again, kind of summarize what you've already laid out with reading into this application into the record, the site is located off of Union Ave. It's also described as tax map and lot 237-220-8 and -1. The total property area is about 2.45 acres. It's zoned urban compact, and then it's within the performance zoning overlay. As you've also stated that this plan is to merge these two lots together into one lot and then create a condominium site plan. One building being the existing T-Bones and Cactus Jacks, which will be essentially a 2-unit building with T-Bones being on the first floor and Cactus Jacks being on the second floor. Those exist. There are no proposed changes to that. The rest of the site will be a 60-unit condominium building. So just to briefly go over the goals of the project, we've been before this board probably 2 times now for both conceptual hearings. The first time back in April, and we described the goals of this project. First were to provide T-Bones and Cactus Jacks with more parking. That's why the owners purchased the vacant Friendlies next door and plan to demolish it and create some new parking. The secondary goals to that were to create housing for their employees. So to do that, they wanted to create a condominium building, and we originally started at 40 units, and then would go into the whole design team, which includes a financial advisor. Lending would not have been available for those 40 for the 10 units that, the 10 units that would have been reserved for a workforce environment. And while I'm talking about workforce, just one note in the staff report that I want to just make clear. In the summary, it says deeded as workforce housing. It won't be specifically outlined as workforce housing, although it will be deed restricted to the workforce housing rates. And the reason for that is they don't want to call it workforce housing and especially and affect values of the upper condominium units, but the same will apply. So essentially workforce housing will be provided on the lower floor as much as 12 units, and those will be rented out to the staff of T-Bones and Cactus Jacks, and then with the town having a certain number of those units allotted to them for their first right of refusal.
So if I can interrupt, who will own those units? You said
The-
they're gonna be rented out to the employees.
Yes,
So
So the owners of the property and the owners of the applicant and owners of this project will retain ownership of the lower floor, the 12 units. The remainder of the 60 units will be sold at market rate. And so those 12 units will be rented to their staff at the workforce housing rate. And then a proportion of those are also reserved for first right of refusal for town staff. And Bill can correct me if I misspoke there.
You said town staff?
Town staff, school employees, firefighters, EMS.
People live and work in the city, okay.
Yes, and first right of refusal. So if town staff does not have someone that needs to rent there, then it would be open back up to the public
At the same rate.
at the same rate. Yes. So, that accomplishes the three goals. Throughout this process, an additional goal was added to it, that being a deck. So one of the items that was brought up, I don't know if it was jokingly, but it did seem serious, as one planning board member discussed that they wished that there was a deck at T-Bones, and we already were having an internal discussion about that. We were trying to wait till next year to add it to this project, but that is being a little more fast-tracked, and that's why it's been added to this application. So you'll see that there's about a 1,800 to 1,900 square foot deck being added to the back of T-Bones. The reason for that area being added is we need to span the parking spaces. So while that whole deck area isn't really needed, that's not the desired deck area, but we need to construct that deck area to be able to span the parking, to be able to support it without putting supporting members within the travelway or within parking spaces. So as I stated, we've had 2 planning board meetings, one conceptual to introduce you to the project, another conceptual one to introduce the board to the performance zoning relief that we are seeking, that specifically being the height of the structure. The height of the structure, the number of units, and then we've since added the parking spaces to it now that the deck has been added. We have been to 3 TRC meetings working with staff through the process, and then 2 Conservation Commission's meetings. And the plan that you see before you is a result of all of those meetings, with exception to some of the TRC comments that have not been addressed yet, but we are in full agreement with them. So I've already touched on the existing site a little bit, but as you are probably all aware, given it's easily viewable from the public way, and probably some members have been patrons to either Friendly's or specifically T-Bones or Cactus Jack's. Both sites are accessed from Union Ave. Friendly's sits above the Cactus Jack's parking lot, and then both sites slope off to the rear to and eventually drain to Paugus Bay. It should be noted that the existing sites have stormwater conveyance, but do not have any stormwater treatment. So what does that mean? So that means that the existing sites, when it rains there, it goes directly into Paugus Bay without any water quality, without any treatment of the water to make sure it's clean before it gets into it. So that is probably the biggest benefit to this project, is that we are protecting Paugus Bay by developing this and by adding water quality volumes, which I'll get to further. Let's see here. Through the process, we did have some comments, one of them being from assessing, which I was pleased for, because it did, originally I had the T-Bones and Cactus Jacks as one unit. That building, we will be dividing it up into 2 units just to separate the 2 uses if they were ever sold separately. There is no plans, it's just a subdivision purpose, just to make sure that each unit is accounted for separately. And I thank the assessing department for those recommendations. Moving on to the deck installation and the disturbances within the wetland buffer. So to be able to construct this site and provide the stormwater treatment, we did put more stormwater I'll move to the stormwater plan here, to this subsurface treatment system. That required us to increase the pipe that drains to Black Brook. And sorry if I wasn't speaking to the mic there. So the main reason for this conditional use permit for the buffer disturbance is we need to upsize an existing pipe from a 15-inch to an 18-inch. That creates a temporary disturbance within the Black Brook buffer, but it's a disturbance that is under existing pavement, and within a already disturbed buffer, there is no natural vegetation there. It's slope off of the existing T-Bones parking to the state right-of-way. While we were going through this conditional use permit, we figured it would make sense to go through the conditional use permit for the disturbances associated with the deck installation. The on-the-ground disturbances are merely a result of the footing going for the deck to be able to support it. And then the technical disturbances are related to the actual deck area. Although again, that area is already paved, that area is already disturbed, that area is really not the natural wetland buffer that you would tend to think of when you think wetland buffer. So back to stormwater. So stormwater drains to two subsurface systems, the large one being located here on, I'll refer to it as the old Friendly's lot, and then a smaller one to the rear of the T-Bones. Both of those systems provide the water quality treatment and volume associated that is required by the alteration of terrain permit. And then they meet the rates and volumes of that exist there. They also drain to two places where the site originally drained to. So I mentioned that there was some stormwater conveyance system. So this catch basin here that we then drain out to Black Brook is being maintained as the path that we would drain for this portion of the site, as well as this flared end section here from the larger system drains to a culvert that there is an existing culvert, an existing railroad side ditch that we drain to.
That ditch is on this side of the tracks, right?
It is on the near side of the tracks, yes. And by not increasing the rate and not increasing the volumes, we're not negatively impacting the downstream. And again, I would say we are definitively positively impacting the downstream, that being Paugus Bay, by providing water treatment. Getting to site access. So the existing site has a total of 4 access points, 2 of them being full, meaning you can go in and out freely, and then the other 2 being one an ingress and one an egress. We have consolidated these down to 3, 2 of them being full, and then 1 being a full in, and 1 being a restricted right out only. That right out only was at the direction of the DPW director. He suggested that we have that be a right out only. While we meet site distance at all driveways,
Go ahead,
Sorry.
I'll ask in a minute.
we meet site distance at all driveways by the definition of measuring 10 feet off of the travel way and then looking up the roadway at 400 feet as well as 200 feet. So I refer to those separately as AASHTO requirements for a 30-mile-an-hour road is about 200 feet. The DOT requirements is 400 feet.
So, okay, I'll ask now. You're gonna have basically 3 means of egress.
Yes.
So if I'm looking at T-Bones now, you have the one at the lower end.
Yes.
Or the northern end, and then the other one. Those are gonna remain the same?
The one at the lower end, which is this one, we're not touching.
Okay,
The one at the Friendly's one
Yeah.
is shifted slightly over by maybe 5 feet. The
shifted over towards,
shifted towards the property line by about 5 feet.
okay,
The 2 that you're probably referring to at T-Bones, where the closest one to T-Bones is an in, and then the further one, closest one to the Friendly's is an out. Those are being combined into one access point that gives you full in, so you can take a right in or a left in, but then only taking a right out. And we are restricting that movement by having a raised island there.
but wait a second, so if I go in there, the only way I can exit is by making a right turn?
No, out of that exit, yes.
What about?
But
the
you
low-
have
but the
2 other
lower-
exits that you can go left and right out of.
The lower one, or the one that's towards the housing units there.
Yes, you have this one here and you have this one here.
So that one down there will be two-way.
Yes,
They can go right or left.
yes.
So the northern one, people go into that northern one, or actually it's a southern one, the one closest to Friendly's.
Mm-hmm.
You go in that way, you can't go around, right? Or can you? Will you be able to go around?
You'll be able to access any one of these access points as you navigate through the site, which I will say improves the site circulation, because as,
So my point is, so if I go in that one that's closest to Friendly's, I'm not gonna be restricted to leave there, only make a right turn. I can go around the backside of T-Bones now and go out the other one and make a left turn there?
yeah, so you're saying go through this one here, right?
Yeah.
You could then navigate all the way through the site and go to this one, or,
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
yeah, or you can navigate through the site and circle back to the one that you just came through. So you're,
That's a right turn only, and that's what,
no, there's two.
it's not, that's two-way, that's the Friendly's one.
So let me rephrase them differently. So there is the northern one, there's the middle one, and then there's the southern one.
They're
So,
all gonna be connected.
and they're all gonna be connected.
That's what I didn't know. Okay,
Yeah.
beautiful.
So-
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Clears it all up.
While we're talking about access to the site, we were originally going to seek a waiver for sidewalk through discussions with the TRC committee meeting and planning staff. They highly recommended that would not be approvable. So,
Great recommendation on their part.
so as you see before you, that there is sidewalk added that does provide pedestrian connections, although the sidewalks don't connect anywhere yet. But
Okay.
hopefully someday in the future, other projects will go in adjacent to it that will provide interconnections or provide connections to those sidewalks. At each entrance, we do have detectable warning pads as well as a crosswalk to be able to cross them safely. And then there is proposed with raised granite curb to protect the sidewalk from any vehicle traffic. Let's see here, kind of moving on. So getting to the parking issue. So obviously the goal of this project was, one, to increase parking. While we have done that, we also have decreased it by adding the deck. The deck isn't going to be used at 100% capacity like the parking calculations require it to be calced at. The size of that deck is set up so that way we can span the parking. So we are spanning the parking to be able to put a support structure on the other side of it, thereby not reducing any parking with that. That deck will provide an ambiance to patrons that are there that will be able to look out without really looking at the that lower building. I believe it's like a boat storage building on the other side of the railroad tracks, where you can focus your attention outwards to the bay and have a great evening meal or a great lunch, especially come summertime. With that, so without the deck, we were probably about positive 8 parking spaces. By including the deck, we end up being at a negative 9 parking spaces, and that's where the performance zoning and the expansion of the conditional use permit, or the conditional use permit associated with the performance zoning was added to it. With a mixed-use site like this one, where you have 2 restaurants and a condominium unit, you have a crossover of parking. And what does that mean? That means that you don't need the maximum amount of parking for each use. So if you need X amount for T-bones and Y amount for the condos, which equals Z, you really don't need that. You need a lesser amount to be able to accomplish that. And I will add, even with the deck being added to it, we're within a factor of 3 to 5% deficiency there, which then is mitigated by the lower units being rented out to employees, and there's a shared use there. So it's
Keep going.
oh, all right. I thought you had a question.
I'll wait till you're done.
Yep. So that is the end of the parking aspect. Moving on to Utilities, we're obviously gonna be connecting to town water, town sewer, electric, and then gas. With that, we've had conversations with the water department, conversations with the DPW for the sewer connections. And we recognize that we need to meet all of their requirements to it. So let's see here. Moving on to landscaping. We had 2 Conservation Commission meetings where landscaping was I wouldn't say a hot topic, but it was the focal point of the meetings. Their comment letter outlines, and let me get to our landscape plan. Their comment letter outlines that they want a different tree instead of the thornless, I'm forgetting the actual name, and I could look it up here. The thornless honey locust. Me not being landscape architect, I went to our landscape architect to discuss what are the negatives of thornless honey locusts. And while the Conservation Commission says they behave like a invasive species, her opinion is on it, if the site isn't maintained, it may behave like a invasive species, although the trees proposed now are bred to not spread their seed like a wild one would. She also referenced many design manuals that propose these as trees, as appropriate trees, street trees, with it being within, close to the road and within the parking lot. So the benefits to them is they have a small leaf, so when the leaves fall, they don't really overburden the road or have like a maple tree where you have a lot of leaves within the gutters and possibly clogging up the drainage systems. And really that was her main point of why those were proposed, but we understand that the board has desire to have more native trees there, and if there is a better suited tree that the board would recommend and suggest us to use, there is no pushback on requiring those. So,
Pine trees. I'm kidding.
pine trees are
Kidding. I was so, don't even answer. I was kidding.
All right. So moving on to one of the other conditional use performance zones item is structure height. I believe we discussed this in great detail at the last meeting, but it's been a while.
New
So
audience, yeah.
just to summarize that, we are proposing a height of, a technical height of 79 feet 8 inches. And that is from the lower level parking garage to the highest point on the building. And that's strictly governed by the way that the regulations read. The highest point on the building is the parapet for the elevator shaft to be able to access the rooftop gathering area. When you look at this from a practical standpoint, from the first floor, the floor that is visible from the public view, to the top of the parapet is 79 feet 4 inches. So visually speaking, when you're standing on this sidewalk, that's the size of the building that you're going to see. With that, the site does slope away from the road. So it slopes away from the road another 6 feet, thereby also mitigating the height. And then we do have I believe it is above code required landscaping along the front of the parking to additionally help mitigate any impact to the view of the public, although I would add it is a very commercial area surrounding there. Let's see here. So, moving on from that.
Let me just ask you if I can.
Yep.
So 79 feet 8 inches,
Yes.
and if I'm standing on the sidewalk right flush with Union Avenue and I'm looking straight at the building, it's gonna be 73 feet that I see, or 71 feet, or?
57 to the parapet. So, the parapet is the architectural element that surrounds the deck, and this right here is the elevator bulkhead that is set back from the parapet, and it's just I don't want to call it a blip on the screen, but the architects here can answer it if we need to. But the overall height that the building will visually look like is closer to the 57 foot. than the actual 79. Because there's 11 feet of parking garage below,
Below.
Yes.
On the slope,
below the slope,
below the slope.
yes.
Guaranteed,
What's that?
guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
That's a big deal for a lot of people, you know, that height.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important, that if that's what it's gonna look like, is 57 feet, that, you're right, that's below the 60-foot.
Yes, and while, again, strictly following the ordinance, it is 79 feet. But when you're standing on the sidewalk, what of the building are you seeing? So you're seeing the 57 feet to the top of the parapet. Yes, you are still seeing some of the bulkheads of the elevators, but that's, when you look at the entire length of the building, the bulkheads on the elevators are minor compared to the overall size of the building.
Thank you.
So with that, I believe that comes to the end of the presentation. I would just like to leave you with the benefits again of this provides a existing site to treat water before it gets into Paugus Bay, which the Conservation Commission was very adamant in saying that's where the town's drinking water comes out of. It assists an existing business in town to provide some additional parking as well as some additional seating area that I think the town would like, as well as the town visitors would like. It also provides workforce to a business and provides workforce to a community and provides additional housing to a community. Even though these condos will be sold at a market rate, any additional products added to the stock will free up other units to hopefully be moved into by other generations. So with that, I would open up the board to any questions or comments that they would like.
I was wondering, you said one of the owners is here?
Yes, I guess I have one more point regarding the conservation, which I skipped over. So, snow storage was a concern. With that, they suggested doing the Green Pro, which is essentially a type of snow removal that minimizes salt. And then they also wanted it known that any excess snow would be trucked off-site, and I have no problem putting those notes on the plan to make it known that that's what needs to be done.
Who asked about the salt?
The Conservation Commission.
Mr.
And
Chair,
and this is the salt that you put in your parking lot? Is that what they're
Yes.
concerned about?
Yes.
And undoubtedly, the salt from the road won't go into your parking lot.
They
I'm
view
being
it,
sarcastic here because I'm just making a point. I'm glad that somebody's pointing it out to you.
Mhm.
I just wish it was citywide. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm on the Conservation Commission, as you all well know.
Yeah.
We are recommending on all projects that come before us, not just this one, that we try to use species that do grow native to our area. That's just kind of what we're trying to go to because of the invasive nature of it. They thrive better.
You're talking about the salt?
No, I'm talking
Okay.
about the trees on the
Okay,
landscaping.
that's what
I
I
just
was
was gonna say that
Yeah.
that did come up he is right. There are people on the Conservation Commission, Lisa Moran, who is the head
It's
of,
okay.
UNH Extension Program for Agriculture, and she's very knowledgeable about this. That's a recommendation that the Conservation Commission has made across the board to just about every project that comes before us that involves landscaping, for the obvious reasons. Secondly, we did recommend snow in a winter where we have a lot of snow that it gets trucked off. There was some concern with the salt. I understand we can't control the salt that they put on Union Avenue, but any little bit that we can do,
Well, maybe we can.
or maybe we can, that's for a future discussion, not here. Thirdly, one question I had back to parking. Do you have any sense of, you're going for the number of units, you're gonna have dedicated parking underneath probably for the top floor, I'm guessing,
Yes.
the more higher priced condominiums?
Yes.
I don't need to know the details. Will each resident space have a dedicated and/or a numbered parking space?
Yeah, so the condominium plan that will be that is put together but still needs to be finalized is Like you said, the below the condo units or the garage units will be allocated to the top floor and work their way down for one space apiece. And then the closest units to the front, the closest spaces to the door will be allocated until at least one parking space is 100% allocated to each
Okay,
unit.
yeah, that's what I would, and would those spaces be numbered, and would it be incumbent on the condo association to monitor that if if it became a problem? Nothing more frustrating than getting home from work on a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock and not being able to park anywhere near your building. I've been there, done that.
Yes, the spaces will be numbered.
Okay, thank you. All I got, Charlie,
Thank you, Gail.
and that's the Conservation Commission's position.
Number the spaces.
Staff has a question, go
Yes.
ahead.
Couple questions. So, for the parking, if I'm not mistaken, that was at the 1.5 spot rate.
Yes.
What it currently is, perfect, okay. Cause that will go down come January where they're only gonna need 1 unit per spot anyways, so, I think that,
Then we're over by 20.
yeah, exactly. And then the second question we had is, would these units, the 20%, the bottom floor, would they meet the definition that the state has outlined for workforce housing?
Yes.
They would, okay, perfect.
Yep.
And how long would you have those deeded for?
I think I'll let Bill answer that.
Hello?
Bill Greiner, I'm one of the owners, 12 Aspen Lane, Bedford, New Hampshire. We would be willing to put a 20-year restriction on those. I mean, he says, we're not gonna flip these, we're gonna retain ownership in those for the foreseeable future, and that was the intent to begin with. The ones we sell, we're gonna sell, whoever buys those, but we need to retain those for our employees, and we have no problem having that as a restriction for a long time.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So, if I understand you correctly, on those 12 units, they would be earmarked for workforce for 20 years.
Correct. And we'll adhere to the HUD income levels, the HUD, what we can charge for the units, absolutely.
Would you consider longer than 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, we have no intention of,
I just think that part of this whole process is the workforce.
Yep.
And if 20 years can go by quite quick.
Don't get away from the mic.
And I think that if you would consider longer than 20 years, I personally would think that would be.
We can come up with a number
Okay.
too, so, yeah. That's
Thank
good.
you.
but yeah, understand that's the intention. There's no, we're here, as I think I said in the first meeting that we were here, we're invested in this community. We've been here for pushing 20 years. We're not going anywhere.
See
And
how
this-
fast that went by.
Exactly. And, this is, when we bought the property, as I joked, this was the most expensive parking lot in the state of New Hampshire, $1 million to park cars. And then from there, we had to figure out what are we gonna do with it, and Starbucks would love to be there. I can reel off a lot of people who call us, and employee housing and housing is more important to us than making the last dime. So you come up with whatever restriction timeframe makes sense. That's our intention. It's been our intention, and it's going to be our intention.
Any other questions for right now? If you guys could we'll give you a break right now.
Thank you. I'll leave these up for you.
Thank you. We'll open up a public hearing on this application at 7:13 for any abutters, or if anybody's in the audience that would like to give some commentary. Just state your name and address, please.
Mr. Chairman, Leclerc? St. Clair,
St.
St. Clair. Board members, staff members. My name is Roger Montplu. I'm on the board of directors of the Spinnaker Cove Yacht Club, who has resided there for 45 years. We have 91 members that have paid taxes into the city for the last 45 years. This is Charity Willis. We share
Good evening.
3 units in that facility, and I'm on the board of directors. I got a couple of questions before I start. What I'd like to say is, on service to the Yacht Club Association, it's a condominium association, did we get notice on the
Conceptual.
the conceptual part of the hearings?
Would it Look
No.
to staff on that.
Okay,
No, the RSA does not require notification of abutters for conceptual
okay.
hearing.
So, so now you'll know where I'm coming from, because this train is leaving the station and we're not on it. So, it's hard to catch it once it leaves the station. But I'm here to tell you that, because of the staff's, the staff report. All right, the agenda for tonight, I'm just gonna kind of get my thoughts together here. The agenda tonight had all the, whatchamacallit, it's,
The staff notes.
yeah, well, the staff notes, but it also had a list of all the documents. That's where I'm going with it. So, when we've been to the planning office, which they were very cordial to us, and, but if you can try to picture how we get service, now we only got service on this public hearing, am I correct? Okay, so once we get service on this, it goes to a post office box, and then somebody picks that post office box up, and then gets back, puts it in a pile of bills, and then opens it and reads it, and, then they start to alert the board of directors, which I'm on, and then we start to notice the members, if we can catch them. So it's a snail trail all the way through. So we're catching this at the very end. I will say that from all the documents that I pulled up today on your agenda, and that was very, very helpful, by the way, I was able to read all of them. She and I spent almost all morning and probably till 1 o'clock reading your staff report and all the rest of the reports. And at that point, it killed 90% of what we were gonna come here tonight to ask. So I gotta give you all compliments on, the way you've arranged this and the information that was put out. Excellent, excellent, all of you. But we still have a bunch of questions to ask. And earlier, just as a sidebar to this, we looked around the room. I was on a planning board in Pelham for 30 years. I just stepped down. I was chairman like yourself many times. And so I understand what all you people think and, the harmony that you try to bring, the balance. When I was on the planning board, one of the most important things to me was to try to maintain quiet enjoyment of the abutters' properties so that they could enjoy their quiet enjoyment. So you can think that we're down below by the waterfront, and then all of a sudden we got this behemoth building going up next to us. It's going to be right up against us. So we had a lot of concerns to begin with in only this much time. So we're here tonight with a list of things, and we listened to the presentation, and I started to see that there were I thought this was wrapped up like a present with a bow going on it tonight. Probably will. But there are other concerns that I want to bring up so that you consider them in the scheme of things. So we're going to start. Charity was the recording secretary for 20 years, while I was 30 years on the board. So that's how we got together. Anyway, the site that we're on, 91 units, 1196 Union Ave. So we're direct abutters to this project. I have to say, as a neighbor to this project, we never had anybody, the owner from T-Bones, nor the people that are doing the development here, ever approach us. Planning board in Pelham, we always encourage the developers, the owners, to talk to their neighbors. We've been a good neighbor to T-Bones. You figured 91 units. Friday night, everybody shows up, and where do they head? To T-Bones. We only have to walk upstairs and go to the restaurant. We're ourselves in it several times a week. So I have to think that they're getting 180, 200 dinners a week from just our marina, because everybody loves going there. So we're not opposed to our neighbor. We've supported them for the last umpteen years since they've been in there. Okay, so I need to know, will the underbuilding parking be enclosed, or do they have like bars at the lower level, like some parking garages? Is that a solid wall?
Hold on a second. Let me just take these questions one at a time and get an answer from the applicant on that. I'm gonna speed things up.
Okay, because I got a lot of questions.
Yeah, so,
So,
hold on, he's gonna, you can come up, if you wanna come up and you
why
can
don't you
answer.
just move this over, come right up with us, so we can talk.
Just to answer these questions, if you can, if you don't mind, because that'll undoubtedly speed things up.
Yeah, so it's to be determined at this time. So we don't necessarily know yet. The building's still in the design phases.
You would like it enclosed?
Yeah, we would like it enclosed for the following reasons, in addition to another request. So what we have from T-Bones, because that's a very active restaurant with Cactus Jacks, two restaurants in one. And I think you've probably all been in there at one point, but that place is always jam-packed. The parking lots, Friday, Saturday night, Thursday night. We've been in on Tuesday nights, and the parking lot's pretty full. They come down, it's on a slope, they come down the hill and they park facing the marina. And then people come out after a couple of cocktails and they sit out in the parking lot and they chit-chat between cars. They got them running, the headlights are on, and all we get is the floodlights down on us. We're sitting out there relaxing in the evening, summer evenings, trying to enjoy the waterfront.
Could a fence be put up to stop that?
That's what we're asking, yes. We'd like a 5-foot fence to go across, and if this has bars at the bottom, we'd like the fence to go completely across, because those headlights are gonna come right at us. From one end of the building all the way over, just past the staircase where the wall starts to turn like that to the right, if you're looking down at the lake, or if you're looking up, it would be to your left. So,
Just as a question, since this has been a situation you've had for 20 years or whatever, is there room on your property to put a fence up?
we have a fence up, but
It's not enough.
the elevation is too different,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
And the elevation for them is directly into our eyes. If you were sitting there right now,
I got
that
you.
headlight would be right on you like this, okay? That's a real problem for us now. So, that would solve a lot of problems. What is this one? Oh, yeah, so I've already said the distance on that, okay. Now, will there be lighting on the back of the building? You gotta imagine us sitting out there, just, small landscaping lights, being comfortable at night, chatting out there by the waterfront, and the lights from this building now. There's going to be 30 balconies facing us with people on them, lights, music. All of a sudden, the noise factor goes way up. You're going to have a deck. How many was it? 100. What was the square footage of that deck?
About 1,800 square feet. About
How much?
1,800.
1,800 square feet of deck with, how many people will that accommodate?
Well, that's okay, so you're concerned about the lighting on the deck? Is that,
Concern not just the lighting, the noise,
oh,
the noise factor.
It was actually the lighting on the property. I understand that a lot of places like this have dark sky compliant lighting, but being at the elevation the building will be, even the dark sky coming down may shine in the direction that we're at. And tonight was the first time that we were hearing about a rooftop area on top of the building. So is there going to be additional lighting up on top as well, other than just, from the balconies or security lights that would come
I
on?
may have misunderstood, but I thought the roof, we were just talking about the elevator. components up there.
Oh, no, we're talking about the
Patio.
deck at
The
T-Bones.
patio's gonna be on top of the, there, okay.
Yeah, there's a couple different
I
things.
missed that.
It's-
Okay, so you have a lighting concern. What else? Keep
Yeah.
going.
Okay, dumpster location, we already have, different types of wildlife that come in at night, skunks especially, from the dumpster that's being placed from T-Bones now. And all the way until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, they're dumping food into these dumpsters. And we get a lot of skunks, raccoons, and rodents. So now we're gonna have another building with more trash. And where is that gonna be placed? And, is that going to then attract, is that gonna be enclosed? Is it gonna have lids?
Okay. Yep, I'm writing these down, so.
Yep,
I'm sure
okay,
the staff
good.
is too.
You spoke about the snow removal off-site. Where will it be stacked or proposed to be kept until it's taken off-site? Because sometimes in major storms, it can take a day or two before the person comes to take it off. So just out of curiosity, where would it be
I'm not
loaded?
sure of the specifics of the plans, I just know it was discussed that
Okay.
Some of the-
it's in their best interest to get the
Is your
snow off of the
facility-
parking lot
Is your
anyway.
facility during the wintertime, what goes on down there where you guys are?
The yacht club is closed. It's open for a snowplow for fire safety, and there's no parking because there's nobody there.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 months of the year, that's our home. 7 months of the year before the snow comes.
But during the wintertime, when we're talking about snow,
Yeah,
other than you guys plowing down there, there's no activity down there.
we just have one pass that goes through so that the fire trucks can get in, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
It was just as far as melting and things that I was questioning where it would
Sure.
be stored. No difficulties there.
Just another visual is when, I know that, I was in the automotive business and we serviced the city of Lowell for towing for the entire city. And during big storms, cars come in with chunks of ice and salt, sand, and all kinds of chemicals, what the other type of chemical that they use for melting that is not salt. And it cakes under these vehicles. You're gonna have, I think, about 50 vehicles at the bottom of this building, and then they're gonna have to have drains.
Yeah, so we get that. So we've got this snow thing.
Yep. Oh, going back to snow, where are you
No,
gonna put it?
yeah, I got that.
Okay.
I am writing this down, so.
That's
Say
fine,
next.
okay. So, all right, are there gonna be pets allowed here? Nobody addressed pets. Is this gonna be a pet-free building? Or are they gonna have, anybody can have a pet, so that's 60 pets?
So you want to know if there's a pet walking area?
Well, if they're going to allow pets in the building, where are they gonna relieve themselves?
Okay,
We have a no pet facility, so it was just a question.
Yeah,
okay.
we do
yeah,
it for sanitation purposes, so that,
Got it down.
yeah, thank
Because
you.
we will answer, these questions will be
okay.
answered,
Thank
so.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been on that side, so we know.
There was a discussion about the height of the proposed building. What's the current height of T-Bones in comparison to the height of the proposed building? Just out of curiosity, how taller?
Well, T-Bones, of course, is down on a lower slope.
But as you're looking from the street or from our area, the parking is going to have that extra level. So from us, it'll look like 6 stories, not 5 from the street level.
You're absolutely right.
So looking up the hill, just the distance and height from where T-Bones is, where does this one fall? It's just another question.
Okay,
Especially because we were
it'll be
hearing
higher.
that they would have a rooftop gathering area. That was a little bit different than I had understood.
Yeah, we didn't know that either. We've spent the last 3 days trying to absorb all the plans that these people put together. You've had 3, 4, 5, 6 months. I tried to do it in 4 days, so,
And then there was a discussion about parking and in addition to parking and the negligible amount and what's allowed with the overlay zone. Currently, there are a few spots that are being utilized by T-Bones down on the railroad side track, so underneath, back in the right-of-way. Will those still be utilized against the stone wall? If they're gonna be changing the parking in the upper level to be combined between the proposed building and T-Bones, will they still be utilizing the space?
below the wall. That's
Below the
what
wall.
some of the, I think they have 3 or 4 spaces there that their employees park.
And they generally come in through the entrance that's for the.
Our entrance.
entrance to access
We've,
them.
we've given them
not-
the right of way to go in.
Correct. Not from their entrance, but they come in at a lower level, just out of curiosity.
They're parking on their property or state right-of-way?
They're parking on the edge of their property,
Yep.
but the only way they can access it is to come through our entry, which we have allowed.
Right, so what's the question?
I was wondering if they would still be utilizing those spots, because this year we were having other people from that location come down and park in other areas there. So if they were changing the parking to make it more inclusive for both of the properties or the combined property now, would they still be utilizing those additional spots at the bottom of the hill?
Okay.
Okay.
So, another question that I'm not sure of, does the property currently, T-Bones, discharge into Black Brook currently?
Discharge what?
Runoff,
Runoff?
yeah.
On that north side, yes. That's why they're redoing the,
So the answer is yes?
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And that was the reason we asked for the
Right, so
extended.
the answer
So
is yes to that.
does
So-
that pipe go under our property?
I don't know. I don't know where your property line really is, but I don't think so.
Well, it goes under the driveway, which we own.
Well, if it goes on your property, you would see it discharge in the lake on the other side of your property. Do you see that?
The road from Union Ave, our driveway comes in like this and then turns into our property. They use the bottom section, which is their land, but they use our entrance to come in. That driveway, from the plans that I see, and we didn't know,
Well, it
has a
sounds to me-
discharge.
It sounds to me like the plans are being taken care of to address the water situation, so if anything, it looks like it's gonna be improved.
Yeah.
So if you've got water being dumped right into Black Brook now, I doubt that's gonna be the case afterwards, right?
That was what was discussed, and that's why the proposal was put to us that way, that they were going to improve the drainage on the lower part of the site, which technically they don't have to do because that's not the lot that's being improved.
Right.
But they have agreed to upgrade the drainage for all of their parking lots to better control stormwater runoff.
Okay, my understanding of that is that they're gonna catch the runoff, and it's gonna go into underground, for the lack of a
It's
better.
not gonna go right into the brook. You can,
I know that, it's gonna be treated and then into the brook, but when it goes into the brook, is it from a discharge under our property?
that's gonna be one for staff to deal with.
Yeah,
That may
okay,
very well be an easement.
pardon me?
That's probably an easement that was negotiated when that was
Well,
put in.
Then that's the next question, is there an easement that exists for that?
Again, that would be, staff would do the.
Could I make a quick
looking at that.
point of clarification before we get down a path that I
Go
don't
ahead.
really wanna, so the area that is being discussed here is within the state of New Hampshire right away. And then we have an existing drainage pipe that goes through there that grants prescriptive rights, to drain water in there, so.
Okay, and that drain goes into the brook?
Yes, and there are prescriptive rights to be able to upgrade and maintain that,
Yeah.
that pipe.
Okay.
Again, these are questions.
I just figured
That's
I'd-
fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we get a copy of that?
It's on the town website.
It's on time, okay.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yep, okay, what's next?
I guess there
to
might
that?
be a matter of timing too, if they're going to be doing that pipe and underneath that access point of us accessing our property, because we have no other way to access.
Well, they would have to work something out with you. I mean, that's
Okay.
just logical.
Yeah, well, that's why we would want to speak to them, which they never came to talk to
I
us.
understood that.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
We
and
just
now
have a
sta-
coup- we just
and
have a
now you'll
couple more
have the
questions.
department to talk with too, because they'll be involved in all this too, so.
I'm sorry?
You'll have the department, the planning department to talk to too, because.
Yeah, yeah.
as
Oh,
a-
and they've been very amenable to us. We appreciate that. Okay, so when they're doing this hillside clearing in order to put the building up, will they be using heavy equipment down where we are, down below?
In that state's right-of-way area? will there
Again,
be-
staff would be watching that'll all be watched by staff. So
Okay.
the equipment, any disturbance to the property, your property, that'll all be watched.
Okay, the reason I'm asking that is that I see that it has a completion date of 2029, am I correct? 5 years?
Yeah.
So 5 years of construction over there.
I don't think
Yeah.
that just gives them the
Oh,
timeline.
I know, but whatever the time is, it's heavy equipment, and is it up against us while they were doing the work, or are they working from their property only?
I suspect they'll work with the best location for them to work. Again, if there's issues with anything like that, that's where you go to the planning department
Okay.
and bring it up with them.
Because we're worried about dust, noise, smoke, hours of operation. These are all things that you people, control. Okay, the time of construction. What time in the morning, this is what we suggest, actually. This is what we want, limited to 8 AM to 6 PM, because they would then start their equipment up, their diesels and heavy equipment, at somewhere around 7:15, 7:30, in order to get the diesels running, warmed up, and ready for action. So if we say 7, then you'd have to do it at 6:15, 6:30 in the morning. And we all live in the marina. We have our boats, they're complete, and they have kitchens and bedrooms, and just like, everybody else. So we live there, so we're neighbors that actually live on site.
I think that's reasonable, and I would defer to staff, that's something that can be worked out. I suspect, not having worked with the applicant before, but I suspect that they'll take all that into consideration too, because they do want to be good neighbors, I'm
Right.
sure. Because after this place is built, you're still going to be neighbors. So,
Well, that's what we're hoping.
yeah, well,
We've been great
I'm rolling the
neighbors.
dice, and I'm sure that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I have no doubt, things like noise from construction and stuff like that, that can all be worked out. I don't see any doubt at all.
I know, but we're just
We'll
looking for
mitigate that.
answers,
No,
that's all.
okay, that's okay.
Just figured we'd put everything out there, so
Put it
that
out.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But to be fair to the planning department, that's, all the projects right across the board, that's nothing that they just walk away from and say, not our problem. They watch out for everybody on this, and they've
Yeah.
done a good job
well,
at
we
that.
have to breathe the air, the diesel smoke and everything else. I will tell you, when people are smoking on the outside deck right now, in the evenings, if it's a very calm evening, cigarette smoke permeates right through our, I know that sounds,
No,
it's
no,
down by
that's
the
fine. So,
dumpster area,
can-
not up on the top.
Okay, so, anything else on this?
yep, we got plenty.
Just 3 more questions.
Okay.
3 more.
Yep.
Hang on. Okay. Okay, when they're doing all their real heavy construction with flatbed carriers, low boys, and these big tractors coming in and out, okay, are they gonna have police, traffic control out on the street?
Again, that would be something between, with the planning department, Public Works, and the police, if they need a detail or something like that. I'm not the person to make that answer. But again, normally with big construction sites around the
So-
city, when you see that type of activity going on, they quite often will have some sort of traffic control just for insurance purposes alone. So
Well,
that's noted, and we'll.
we're asking for one, and let me give you an example. Most times, even not in the high season, trying to get out onto Union Ave from our entrance, okay, we sometimes have to wait until the traffic light at Fratello's turns and the light at
Shaw.
Shaw's turns, and this row of vehicles let through finally passes, and we can get out. So without a traffic control and this heavy equipment, we're worried.
I can assure you that that is the same for every driveway and business entrance on the whole stretch of Union Avenue, all the way from downtown right up to the end of the road there at Lake Street. It's just a busy street. But again, construction, that's something that,
Yeah.
if there's a problem, that
We're
that'll be
raising the
addressed.
questions
Yep.
now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
okay, why don't you ask that?
I'm just wondering what the HUD price point for workforce housing is currently, or
What the
for
what?
rentals.
What the what?
The housing of urban development,
The
HUD,
the going rate?
correct.
If you hold on 1 second, my assistant planner has those statistics, and he's getting them right now for you.
540,000.
So while he's looking at,
For
looking at that,
for
do you have a-
single-family homes, it's 546,000
Did you have another question
presently.
besides like, why he's looking that up?
Yeah,
Yep.
nope.
That's it? This is the
That
last
was
question?
it.
Okay.
So,
Go
so
ahead.
for the state's definition of workforce housing, and if you're renting, they're basing it off of $58,000 a year for three family, which comes to $1,450.50 a month for both rent and utilities. So that
And utilities.
and utilities. That's the definition. That and under is the definition of workforce housing
Definition, yeah.
for this area.
I'd love to find one of those.
So.
Mr. Chairman, thanks
Thank
for your
you.
patience.
Not-
We
that's
appreciate
fine.
it.
You
and,
guys were very thorough, and I
Yep.
appreciate you being thorough like that. And again, a lot of these are pretty, I think, pretty basic questions and good questions. And I feel totally confident that the applicant will work with the department and potentially you guys too as neighbors. So they're all good questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for your time.
Thank you, board members. Have a good night.
I'd just like to add, Charlie, that the developer will have to do a pre-construction meeting with DPW. And during this pre-construction meeting, we go over all of these things of when construction starts every day, when it terminates, the type of vehicles, entrance and exit strategies, maintenance of the road, issues that happen during construction. All of these issues are all addressed for every project that goes on in the city of Laconia.
And the police and fire department, they're all there to go over that as well, and they go over the timeline and everything.
This is a standard the city has held for a very long time, and this is something that we do with every single project that gets approval from the planning board.
I thought as much. Okay, so you guys picked all that up, so, okay, good. Go ahead, sir, introduce yourself, please, your address.
Bill Karen, Spinnaker Cove. I've only got one question.
Sure.
Mine has to do with the entrances. He's got a right turn entrance on the right side of the property. When you leave Spinnaker Cove and then someone's coming out of T-Bones or Cactus and they're taking a left and you're taking a right, sometimes it's a little touchy. I mean, how much, have you thought of if you could put the right turn closer to us instead of on the other side of the property?
That is where the DPW director had me put it.
Oh, really?
We're gonna put the DPW. We have their phone number if you need it.
It's meant to keep the whole area safe, it's not look at like one specific area.
Guys, if you're gonna talk, you gotta come up.
So the DPW director requested that driveway be a right out only. And he's looking at the entire area in the roadway system, not just like one neighboring property
Right.
to the other neighboring property.
That was my only question. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you for attending.
I did want to add, DPW did review everything, and those were his findings, and he had no issues with the proposed traffic plan.
Okay, thank you. Sir?
Okay, my name is Phil Grebner, and I'm a unit owner down there owning one parking spot as opposed to being able to own the dock, because you can't own water. Okay, so I'm a single unit owner. This is a couple of questions. I wanted to clarify on the height. This gentleman did a great job, but I want to ask, because you mentioned the 79 feet 8 inches. That's from the ground where that building is going to be standing, correct? Because I'm interested to know what the difference is because that elevation of where they're building is higher than the elevation of the railroad tracks, okay? And then from the railroad tracks, we slope downward a little bit towards the lake. So I'm curious to know what that height is from the level of the railroad tracks.
I don't know the specific height from the level of the railroad tracks. The way Laconia's height definition works is it's the average grade around the building defines the lowest point, and then you measure to the highest point.
Okay, because if you've ever been to Spinnaker Cove Yacht Club and to T-Bones, where the steps are, which were built so that people from us could go up there, which precedes T-Bones, it even go back to the place that was there before that, okay? That's gotta be another 15 feet of height, okay, at least. So the size of the building, how high it extends into the air is much greater in the look coming down at us than the number that was projected at 79 feet, okay? So I just wanted to make that aware to the people that are here, okay? One of the other questions I had with the drain that's gonna go into the Black Brook, okay? Because the Black Brook has caused problems for Spinnaker in past years. Where is that crossing? Is that crossing under our property, Spinnaker property? Okay, I couldn't see the chart when you were up there showing it, okay.
As previously stated, it goes under the state of New Hampshire's right-of-way there. And it's replacing an existing pipe from a 15 to an 18-inch.
I'm still confused, because as you come into the Spinnaker Cove property from Union Avenue, there are visitor spots, and then there are deeded spots that people own, okay? And then there's the driveway to drive. And before you get to the gate to turn in, there's a railroad fee that we pay for. There's a spot that is owned by the railroad at that point. So coming in to Spinnaker from Union Avenue, before you make the turn into our parking lot, that ends the Spinnaker property, and the rest is railroad property. So we pay a fee to the state for the railroad crossing fee every year. Okay?
So do you know where the pipe is now?
No, I don't. I'm still confused. That's what my point is.
Well, maybe-
And feeding into the Black Brook, okay, we've had problems with the Black Brook and the drainage. Years ago, we spent a ton of money to have it dredged out when the whole parking area, buildings were put up with a new, I'm still calling it new, when that whole area was developed with all the buildings up there. So it flowed down, it created a sandbar out there for us, so it has cost us money in the past. So I'm just curious, my curious is, are they gonna dig up our property for that drain? As our section of that property, is it gonna be dug up by them, okay? Which would interfere with what we're doing, what we own, in a sense, okay? And,
Well, that's a valid question. What's the answer to that?
What's the question?
where is the drain? Can
Where
you
the-
show
where
me
the
where
drain
the drain
is, where you're
and
gonna
whether it's
replace the-
affect our property? That's all I'm asking.
Where you're gonna replace the pipe, is
Okay.
that, when you dig that up to put a bigger pipe in there,
So,
is it gonna be right where the pipe is now, or alongside?
I don't
of
know
it?
where the pipe is
No,
now.
I'm asking the architect. So is that pipe gonna be put in alongside the one that's currently there now?
So, as I tried to previously state, maybe I wasn't clear, this section right here is state of New Hampshire right-of-way, also referred to as the railroad, right?
Right.
There is an existing culvert pipe that runs from this catch basin location, although we're proposing to replace it,
Right.
to this in a flared-end system, section. You can actually go out there and see, and you can see in the pavement where that pipe has already been replaced at some point in time.
Okay, so from your drawing right there, that does impact our property.
This pipe is in the same exact location as the existing.
Let me get a better look then on an angle if I could.
He's talking about the right-of-way, what they draw.
That right, Phil, I think that's right where Dumont's parking spot is.
Actually, it might encroach on that last owner's spot right there.
Yeah.
Okay, right, as this crosses here, the last spot over here is an owner's spot.
So the pipe is on the property right here, the pavement that would be replaced is along this. and we're
Does
following the same
Spinnaker
exact
Cove
route.
driveway
Okay, so
across the railroad?
we've got that, I think we've got
That's a
that
deeded-
answered now.
Okay, well, I'm gonna look at our property first before I can.
And
Sure.
any concerns about construction and coordination with the owners of, sorry, is it Spinnaker? Be done similar to, we're doing construction in the right-of-way, right? So we need to inform the town DPW. In fact, they discussed that this would be done at night because of the level of traffic. So this would probably be done either in the off-season, when you guys aren't using your marina, or done in an evening, and would be done in one evening to replace that pipe.
Okay.
And I have one clarification I'd like to make, if you give me 1 second, okay? So, when Roger was up there talking about the spots where we let them come on our property to park their vehicles, okay? That all started probably just as T-Bones was getting going. I happened to have been on the board at that time, and we have had a verbal relationship with T-Bones for all these years to allow those to have 4 people, and originally it was supposed to be 4 cooks, to be able to cross our property and then park on the hill, okay, by the hill coming down where their steps are, their property. So we've had a verbal agreement, okay? And at any point, that could change, okay? And most recently, we've had some issues that we were told maybe they weren't all chefs that were parking there, but that's the way it started out. And on the 4th of July, it's always an issue, because what ends up happening is people from all over park on our property that have no idea where they're going, and their cooks got shut out of having their parking that they thought they would have, and we sympathized with them. We said, tow them, they're on your property, so.
Well, that sounds like another whole issue besides this here, but.
So, but I don't think that's parking, I don't think that spot, from what I hear as the building, that area is gonna be usable for parking anyway, once the construction is done, okay? I couldn't see the plans from my direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, one more bite.
One last question. Okay, I just heard what this gentleman said. So, I believe,
Swing the mic.
I believe that that line goes under our property, I believe.
Okay.
We never knew about it before, but it's there, and we have some erosion going on where I see that pipe coming out, the existing one, where some of the parking area is starting to sag. It could be from the drainage from that pipe, okay?
This
And
is-
we're- and we're only discovering it now.
Okay, but this is what you need to bring up to the planning department.
Right, I will, I'm just trying to put it into the record,
Yeah.
okay?
That's fine.
So, we do not want them to do it one night or when we're not around. If it's through our property, we have to give them permission. And we have to be involved, that's all we're asking,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the public wish to be heard in what has turned out to be a very long public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:52:45. Thank you all very much for getting your comments out there. We'll now turn this over to staff.
If I could, just before Tyler goes over the exceptionally long staff report. The applicant did submit a lighting plan to us, and it is available online and in the planning department. And it does not show any light spillage, and that it is still dark sky compliant.
It is still what?
Dark sky compliant.
Dark side compliant.
Dark sky compliant. Sky.
Sky compliant.
So we have the lighting plan that they submitted, and it meets our regulations. So just in case anybody questions it, we do have a copy of it. It is available for public consumption.
All right. So the recommended conditions approval based off of the TRC meeting that was held. I believe it was actually 2 TRC meetings.
Do you want to do it? This is joint. Give you another lot.
Sure. So for this first set of conditions, all these conditions in this section must be completed at least 2 weeks prior to commencing any work on site. Plans must be revised and submitted to the planning department in accordance with the following. On sheet SP6, the existing water main is 16-inch. Tapping sleeve will be 16 inches by 12 inches with a 12-inch valve. On sheet SP6, the lower fire hydrant must have a gate valve. On sheet SP6 as well, both hydrants must have protective posts or bollards. On sheet SP6, 6-inch by 4-inch reducer must be shown after fire hydrant branch. Sheet D3, for the T detail, you need to remove notes 5 and 6. For sheet D3, thrust block detail, you need to remove note 6. On sheet D3, under the hydrant detail, 6 foot of cover on pipe, remove stone drip well, remove poly wrap note, and change Manchester to Laconia. On sheet D3, end of main detail can be removed. On sheet D3, utility trench detail, a 5-foot minimum separation between the storm drain. And then an updated condominium plan to reflect the 2 commercial units. The applicant must complete a voluntary lot merger application and submit it to the planning department for review and approval. These documents must be recorded at the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense. The force main needs to transition to gravity sewer before ejecting into the city sewer manhole. Sewer service and connections must meet all Department of Public Works specifications. The applicant must provide the Laconia Water Department with the required deposit amount for inspection services. Third-party inspection agreement must be in place with the Department of Public Works. Inspections and related reporting must be conducted by a third-party engineer as approved by the Department of Public Works. Final condominium association documents must be submitted to the Planning Department for review and approval. These documents must be recorded at the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense. Erosion controls must be in place and inspected and approved by the Planning Department. The Planning Department will perform regular inspections to ensure erosion controls are installed and maintained correctly. The applicant must possess all required permits and approvals granted by other municipal, state, and federal boards or agencies. All permits and approvals must be in place prior to the signing and recording of the final plans in Mylar. Should any permit or approval be revoked at any time during the project, all work must cease until a new permit or approval is obtained. Copies of all permits and approvals must be provided by the applicant to the Planning Department upon request. 4 final plan sets and a Mylar plan must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the Planning Department. The Mylar plan must be recorded at the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense, and a pre-construction meeting must be held between the developer and representatives from the Department of Public Works, Planning, Fire, Police, and Water. Unless otherwise specified, all escrow checks must be received by the respective departments no later than 1 week following the pre-construction meeting. All other requirements in this section must be completed prior to conducting the pre-construction meeting.
Construction requirements. All conditions in this section must be met during the construction of this project. The applicant must adhere to all specifications as required by the Laconia Water Department. The applicant must adhere to all specifications as required by the Laconia Fire Department. The sprinkler system must meet all Laconia Fire Department specifications. A Knox box must be installed to prevent damage to in the event of an emergency entrance. In the event an emergency entrance is needed. A designated fire lane with associated signage must be provided in front of the building. All excavation within the public right-of-way must only be performed during hours approved by the Department of Public Works. Upon completion of all utility work within Union Ave, the entire road surface from curb to curb must be milled and inlaid between the southern and northernmost limits of the project. Post-construction requirements. Impact fees. Impact fees in the amount of $3,481.37 per new dwelling unit and $1.49 per square foot of the new restaurant deck space must be paid to the planning department prior to the issuance of each certificate of occupancy. As-built design. An as-built design for each dwelling unit must be submitted to the planning department for review and approval in accordance with the city policies and procedures at the time of submission. Completion date. The project and all associated conditions must be completed by no later than October 1, 2029. If all conditions are not met, nor any extension of application filed with the planning department, by the completion date, this approval is null and void. I don't know if we went over the findings of facts.
We did not.
But I will hit on those. The application is complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations. The application and site plan were reviewed by the Technical Review Committee at its September 17th meeting. Their comments have been incorporated into the recommended conditions of approval.
And another note, so if the board would like to add a condition of a timeline for the deeded covenants, you can give out a number of the years that you guys would like to have them deed restricted.
Okay,
I know that you guys discussed that.
yeah, we'll discuss that. Anything else, you guys? Can I get one of you guys to come back up to the mic? I want to ask just a few of these questions that were brought up, which I think were pretty good questions, actually. What about pets?
We haven't even thought about that.
What do you think?
I mean,
Too soon to think about it?
no,
or-
I mean, if I look at the other 2 projects that we have in Bedford, for example, the most recent ones I've done, including a 91-unit workforce project, we allow pets. What we do is to make sure the pets are kept after. Every pet is DNA tested ahead of time. So if your dog makes a mess, I know it's your dog. You're gonna pay the fine.
We've
So-
come so far in
We
our
have,
world,
haven't we?
haven't we? Okay, well, all right,
It's a
so,
thing.
but
It's a thing.
in any event, if you have pets.
So if we have pets, we're we like pets, we're gonna be responsible about it, but if you pay your pet deposit fee, which you will do, you'll pay a fee for that, and you'll pay a small monthly fee. If your dog makes an accident and you don't pick it up, you will get a bill for that.
When you say makes an accident, you're talking about outside, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Which I think is what their concern was, is I don't think they really, I'm guessing they don't really care what happens inside the condos. Most of what I heard was really about the restaurant, really not the condos, but within the condos, if we make a mess
Okay,
in
but-
your unit, that's okay.
Okay. Okay. What about this fence? I thought that was an interesting observation about the
So,
cars when you're in your lot, and they're a little higher, and they're parked in, so they're pointing towards the lake, and that light's going right in the headlights, and people do leave the lights. A lot of times you can't shut the lights off if the engine's running. So what about the thought of putting a fence along on your side of the property to help mitigate that?
so I think, so we'll talk about two different things. So if we're talking about the condos, I don't think that you're gonna see any lights going into, any lights that we're gonna, any light pollution, whatever you wanna call it, it's gonna be generated from the condos, should have no impact on Spinnaker because it's to the.
Too far up.
Yeah, it's to the left side, and you've got a building that's gonna block that.
You're right, that's what I'm talking
What
about.
I'm hearing is complaints about our existing restaurant, which has been there for 20 years, and it's the first we're hearing about it, but that's okay. What the last gentleman talked about was, I was asking Sam about the grade differential between the tracks and us, and was suggesting that's a pretty high number. He's right, it is a high number. And then go down to the level of Spinnaker, the traffic lights are, the car lights, if they're flashing, or they're pointing towards the lake, are well above whatever level. I mean, again, unless, could we do it? Sure. I'm not, again, it's restaurant related. And I think there's a huge grade difference between
Yeah.
actual and perception.
Well, you know what they say about fences making good neighbors, but that's just something to think about. And the other question I had was, Rob answered the lighting. The snow, we've talked about the snow. I think that was it, what I've got.
So one other question that did come up about like the timing of this. So we don't want to disturb. So obviously we're concerned about the restaurant operation, and the housing is secondary, but it's important. We envision starting this project about a year from now, and the reason I say that is we've got to get a lot of this site work done. So there's when our restaurants are less busy than they would be between say May and October. So from maybe a month from now, a year, 13 months from now, we would start. A lot of that work will be done before it's busy season for us, and presumably for the club as well. And so whether the work is being done in the pipe or any of that, the excavation where the loud work is going to be done, the exterior site work with the big dozers and that, I think that's going to be done probably beneficial to you guys in your off-season, our off-season from a restaurant perspective. Yes, there will be construction during the summer, but that'll be the building itself and the inside stuff, and we're hoping that again, during the winter, we can take care of the outside work when we're not busy, they're not busy, and
Okay.
it's more efficient.
Any other questions here for the staff, or for the applicant, while we've got them up here? No?
No, Mr. Chair, the only thing I would say is to the fence that you were just talking about. Before you went through with that, I would check with the fire department and snow removal. I don't know how wide it is back there, but the fire department may not want, if there was a fire down below in Spinnaker Cove,
Yep.
they would use that driveway to get above it and put it out.
I don't think we're gonna store
Well, I'm
snow
just saying,
storage down below.
you can't block off too much of that down below.
So I would also advise Bill not to put the fence in. One, Bill brought up the point of, it's an existing use, so there is no impact caused by this development. And that actually related to that. And I'd actually expand on that point by saying you can even perceive it to be reduced, because part of the building is over here where there was additional parking that was facing outward. And then I would have concerns about putting the fence there, because when you have a plow that's gonna be going around the curb line, there will be some snow, not a lot, but some that gets pushed over the curb and pushes up against that fence. And eventually it's gonna be broken. Eventually it's just, not that they wanna have an eyesore, but it's just it's gonna be an endless maintenance nightmare.
These are all things that could be worked out, as long as it's being discussed, that's all I bring it up for. And the only other thing now I think about is the parking garage there. Will that be enclosed or will that be open, down below, underneath? We have an answer.
Honestly, we don't know yet. There are a lot of pros and cons to each approach. If
Okay.
you fully enclose a parking garage, that's a pretty heavy mechanical and ventilation load.
Sure,
But when you fully enclose a parking garage, then you have less susceptibility for your pipes to the weather conditions. So there's a lot of things to think about, and I don't have an answer, so I'm not going to make one up for you.
as long as we're thinking about it,
Yeah.
that's what, you heard the concerns, so
Yes.
that's a good thing. And again, we work with the department on that, so it all works out. Thank
And
you.
Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned, we're excited that we're gonna move towards an approval, but we're not rushing to get into the ground. We'll be in the ground a year from now if everything goes well. There's still a lot of work to be done, as Ann just said. Our design isn't completely finished in terms of how certain things that we wanna do. We hear input here, we're gonna hear input from staff. And as we finalize plans over the next 4, 5, 6 months, we're gonna have more information. But again, to your point, we're listening, we're having a dialogue, we hear, we have been friendly neighbors with Spinnaker. I think that those staircase was built because there was a desire to have people come up and down. Like, we're gonna work with them, we're gonna be here, they're gonna be here. There's no point in having adversarial relationship between us or any neighbor, whether it's Spinnaker or people to the left, right, or somewhere else.
Any other questions? Thank you both.
You're welcome, thank you.
Okay, so now we'll take a discussion here before we move forward on this. Does anybody have any more discussion?
Yes. Of course, I couldn't let this go without discussion. Started out as a 40-unit building, and I believe this woman did the plan for the 40-unit building, had the elevator and lobby up in the front of the building to break up the horizontal plane. And that has gone away, and we have a 60-unit condominium building sticking up in the parking lot now, instead of 40 units, but an attractive building. I think it's too much for the space. It's too high. It's, I won't say ugly, but it's not as attractive as the 40-unit proposed building that we approved 2 months ago.
Go ahead, Gail.
I think that when she came to us a couple of months ago, it was really just a rough architectural rendering. Some more thoughts on paper than it was. If I'm misquoting you, say that. Is this your final architectural rendering? Or are you still working out what it's actually gonna look like? You don't mind me asking the architect what she plans on doing?
You have an excellent memory. When I first came here with the 40 units, it was, well, let's just say the client didn't like it. The aesthetic was more just, it was very boxy. I hadn't had the time to really think about materiality, color. And so this one is much more accurate and representational to what it'll look like. That being said, design is ongoing. As the client noted, we're not gonna break ground for probably a year. In that time, I still have at least 6 months of the construction documents, what used to be referred to as blueprints, where all of this will get ironed out and become much more granular in detail. That being said, this represents a building that is like a hardy cement board, so not vinyl siding, it's a hardy board with a stone base. That's not going to change. Could we raise the green base and make other adjustments aesthetically to make it more appealing? Sure. That's up for discussion, but generally this is the aesthetic strategy that we're moving forward with.
Thank you. There's been, people, it's tough. A lot of people who grew up here and, they see this is a big change for the neighborhood there. And there'll be a lot of people that'll be very unhappy with the height. But it's not the first high building we've got on that stretch now, by any stretch of the imagination.
How does that compare, the condo project next to Bayside?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
So how does that compare height-wise to the recently built condo next to Bayside Cemetery?
That's, I think, 47 feet or something like
Actually,
that.
I believe it was just a foot short of the 60 foot.
60 feet, you're right,
Which is
55
maximum.
feet,
Okay.
yep.
So it's equally as high.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, it's,
Good question.
it's 20 feet lower than what they're proposing.
From the backside, but from the front side, as I said, it's 57 feet from the road, so you're seeing the same height from the road.
I don't believe that. I don't, hope you don't believe it. Same as the condos up on Province Avenue. Oh, you won't be able to see them from the road. Take a ride by.
Those aren't condos.
You know, 80 feet is 80 feet is 80 feet. It's 4 inches less than 80 feet. You have 60 feet at Bayside. This is 20 feet higher. Plus, it's on the hill, so from the lake, it's gonna look like 100 feet or more.
But if you look from the lake that way, what do you see? You see the golf carts.
No, you can't see
Or
golf
Valvoline.
carts.
You see the what?
You got the golf cart place in Valvoline. You don't see much of a view through there.
Counselor Cheney, did you have something to say?
No,
Saw you move your
absolutely
hand.
not.
How about you, our newest member?
No, I don't. I'm trying to picture it because I do see, like, I see what you're saying. Like, no, I know, but like the landscape, like big and then little, and then big. But
Well,
but I agree. Also, if you're standing at the lake and you look up, I mean, it's not like there's like a beautiful view in the first place. Sorry.
No, that side of the lake, you see the trees along the railroad track.
You?
You know, you can't even see American Gas, you know,
Okay.
building or the hardware store. You know, so you do see trees there, but now you'll see a building that is 80 feet above ground level, and 60 units squeezing into a parking lot. You're trying to get more parking for the restaurant. You have 60 units there, and there are families coming up from Massachusetts visiting them. I don't see you're getting a big gain of parking spaces. I think it's too much for that space. That's all. Just my opinion.
they might be coming up from other places in Massachusetts. I just want to let you know that, or Massachusetts.
You know, these 60 units aren't going to solve our housing shortage. These local people aren't buying those condos. They're going to be selling for, like Bayside, it's over $1 million, the top prices. We're going for 1.3 million.
Except for those 12 units on the bottom.
So,
Let's talk about the 12 units on the bottom there, about the deed on that. They made an offer of
20 years.
20 years, but it doesn't sound like they're really concerned about what numbers we come up with. So, did you have something else in mind?
I just wanted clarification.
But do you have, is 20 years enough? It was like 25, 30, 40, 50?
I don't know.
Lifetime?
Charlie, I'm new to this. That was one of my questions when I read over this, that, you know, what happens 5 years down the road if 5 years was a magic number?
Well, we know
But
20
we've heard
years.
20 years,
Yeah,
so
20
is, you know, I'll yield to the board, is 20 years enough? I mean, 20 years.
Well, I don't think it is.
Went by quite fast. I
That's
mean,
right.
So, I would like to see something longer than 20. Do I have a magic number? Let's make it 40. I don't know, you know, what's reasonable? That's what I wanna be, is reasonable.
Well, we make it long enough, we won't have to worry about it, will we?
That's a fact.
I did actually say that to him.
But I think it's a valid point because the property could be sold, and you want to protect the
Right.
what that affordable housing was set up for. And I think it's a great idea that if there are spaces that are open and the city employees get a shot at it, that's a great thing. And the rate that Tyler quoted from the state, or one of you guys did, that's good, that's reasonable, that helps people that are, just working stiffs like most of us, so. So I'll entertain a motion to change the 20 years to something other than that.
I don't have a magic number either. I'll
Well,
make
there
a
is no
motion
magic
that we
number.
go
What-
to, I'll make a motion that we change the 20 years to 50 years. It's a lot. I don't know what the number is. I mean, I'm trying to sit there, like you said, maybe 20 years isn't enough, but
Well,
is
how
30
about-
years enough?
One thing you could do, Gail, is look at what do you think the lifespan of that building will be?
And I
So the
really don't know.
lifespan of the building, we know how buildings are, they come and they go, most of them.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
So,
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Tyler.
Charlie, so we kind of were kicking this around as well before tonight's meeting. And the number we had in mind was 25, but, you know, obviously maybe 30, if that's even better for you guys and amenable. But the number we had landed on was 25, and they, you know, came back with
Is
20.
there any information about, like, what other places do? I mean, I can't believe this hasn't happened before, that you know of.
Just interject on the workforce housing. So, a couple workforce housing components, all those projects that I've been a part of, although smaller than this one, where they were deed-restricted for 8 years. And so I'm not suggesting 8, but, and then they went to market rate and they were rental units, and then eventually they became condos. So, I will say that with Bill offering up the 20, is above what I've experienced. And if it went to the 30, it's well above what I've experienced, and hopefully we're all retired by then anyways. So,
Thank you very much.
I make a motion, is that, am I appropriate for 30 years?
I'll
Can we
second.
move this along?
I'll second that.
Well, that'd be a stipulation, it's not a motion.
Okay, there's been a motion made for 30 years, it's been seconded. We'll have discussion then. First of all, yeah, let's have discussion on it before we vote on it. We can do that, right? Or do we have to vote on it first?
You don't have to vote on it because you're just making a condition.
Okay, so let's discuss the 30-year, you said 30? Or 35, 30?
3-0.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, it doesn't matter. I'm against it.
I don't think 30 is enough. I think it should be at least 35. I really do. I think that's fair. I'd like to see them there for the length of the life of the building. And I think 35 will go by quick.
And I think 35 years is very conceivable for a building, like new construction of this magnitude.
Yeah.
I mean, 35 is, hopefully it's gonna be long before, it'll be long after.
And 35 years, the value of those units may
plummet.
may come down or may go up, but that'll be protected, so.
You need to amend your motion. If you amend it, I'll
I don't even know.
We don't need to make a motion, I'm just thinking 35. Go,
I have drafted language for an additional condition, if you would like me to tack that on there.
35. And
So-
we all approve of that, okay, 35? Counselor, you okay with that? Okay.
So,
All right.
so the language I have drafted would be at least 20% of the units developed must have deeded covenants guaranteeing their compliance with RSA 674-58-4. These covenants must be recorded with the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense and in force for no less than 35 years from the date each permanent certificate of occupancy is issued by the city for said units.
All right, thank you, and as the owner indicated, they have no desire to do anything else with those anyway, so I guess it's irrelevant. We're just protecting the longevity of those units if the current owner should not be the current owner at some point. So we're just protecting those units for a minimum of 35 years, and I think that's reasonable. Okay, moving along, I'll entertain a motion.
On what? The 35?
No, we don't have to
Oh,
vote.
okay, that's not-
We don't have to vote on that.
Then I'll move to accept application PB 2025-009, 1116 and 1182 Union Avenue as complete with the findings of fact as presented in the staff report as amended by the deed restriction timeline.
Is there a second?
I'll second. So basically just to move.
You'll second it?
The application.
Okay, so it's been seconded. Any more discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, somebody,
Can I just ask for that, just want to clarify, that's a motion to approve the?
No, it's a motion to accept as complete.
So you've already accepted the application, that's why we're discussing.
Oh,
It's a
I'm
motion to
sorry.
approve,
Oh,
I think is what you're looking
never
this was
mind,
to
I'm sorry.
approve the application.
Okay, if we're already under motion 2, then I'll amend that I move that we approve application PB 202509 1160 1182 Union Avenue with the conditions of approval presented in the staff report as amended by the 35-year deed restriction on the 12 units so designated as workforce housing, or however we've designated them.
And you've seconded it, correct?
So this is approval to like move forward exactly how that is and like
Well, we've just,
what we've talked about today?
Yeah.
Yes.
Does anyone else approve? I don't wanna be
you're
the
just
minority.
seconding, we still have to
All right,
vote
yeah,
on
I
it.
second it, I do.
Okay,
Further discussion.
go ahead.
Started out as a 40-unit attractive building that I thought was kind of big for that spot, and we agreed to it. Now we're adding 20 more units, going 20 feet higher than our height limit. To whose benefit? Is Laconia benefiting from this? Is that solving our housing shortage by adding 20 more units of expensive condos that nobody in town could afford to buy? We're exceeding our height limits, we're exceeding the density of that parking lot to hold 60 units for the purpose of what? The developer's profit, not for the benefit of Laconia. So before we all vote on it, think about that, please.
I don't know if any, I mean, development is development, and I'm not sure, Mike, that it hurts the city. I think we could look at it, any development that way. It is housing, rather there are people that have come up as a second home or live there.
And that's good. I'm pro-development, believe me. I am all for it, but there has to be some limit set to a reasonable course for everybody involved.
Well, as some people have said, the only way you can get more housing, whether it's condos or not, is height. I believe I've heard.
I believe I've said that.
Yeah, and, you know, it gets to be, where in the city can you put height? I know we're gonna face this issue, whether it's this board or another board, on Lakeside Avenue, Weirs Beach. You know, I don't think that's a great place for height. Union Avenue? You know, Union Avenue has not been residential, it's mixed use, but there are certain areas where the residential stuff is just little pockets here and there. And every place else has either been commercial or buildings like this. And I don't know where else in the city that, you know, it would be actually not, it doesn't bother what else is there, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It's not Lakeside Avenue, it's not Main Street in downtown Laconia, it's not North Main Street.
I think you're also stuck on the original one, and I wasn't here for that, so I didn't like the original
Neither was
application.
I, but I totally,
So
I
I
did
get what
see
you're
it.
saying, like you envision something different.
Well, that's not unusual, it really isn't, Kristen, but,
Well, you give them an inch, you know, now they're going for the whole foot.
well, there's
20 feet to
undoubtedly,
be exact.
there's undoubtedly financial thinking behind that. Go ahead, Counselor.
From my perspective, I don't recall the last time someone came in with an assurance of workforce housing, and I assure you that's important to the city of Laconia. I hear what you're saying, but I think I look at it from Union Avenue. I don't spend a lot of time out on the lake, so I'm not looking up, and I'm sure that could make a difference. But for me, looking from the street, it's the height of that other building down the road that I thought was huge. But as Gail suggested, and she and I have talked, we haven't got much left to spread out. It's up. And so I think I support this as, I think this developer has shown more compassion than any others we've seen up to date for the working. folks. And from that perspective, I'm happy to see this. Thank you.
I'm going to agree with Bruce. I thought about what you said a lot today. In fact, I called him just to reiterate almost exactly what you said. The size, is it a lot for a small lot? But if we can only go up. I think they have shown a lot. They're not displacing anybody to do this. They're taking a distressed building that was loaded full of asbestos and removing that. They're proposing some very, very desperately needed stormwater runoff upgrades to Black Brook, which has been a problem. And some of which they did not have to do in order to do this project. Is it to some degree self-serving because their employees need a place to stay? Sure it is, but why else would somebody spend this kind of money if it wasn't self-serving to some degree? I'm gonna support it.
Okay, any other discussion? All set? Okay, the motion's been made, seconded, so all those in favor, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the affirmative, opposed? 2 oppositions, so it passes 4-2. Geez, I thought I was gonna be able to vote there for a second. Okay, so that passes. I thank you all for being here, especially with the public hearing. I look forward to seeing this project move ahead, and I have no doubt that all parties concerned will be working with the department and moving forward from there. Thank you.
Moving right along.
Thanks for your time.
Just because you second, you don't have to vote in favor.
But I know.
I'm joking,
Listen,
I'm
it-
joking.
Think about it.
But I agree with what you
It's the
said.
size.
Because we
Like,
have
it's
people making
overwhelming.
motions
It's
and voting against it.
So I feel like
No.
Don't worry. Okay, moving right along here now. We are on 7.3. This is PB 2025-012, 2426 Winter Street. The applicant is proposing to change the use from a 2-unit residential to multifamily residential. Is, motion to accept the application?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, raise your hands, please. All 5, okay. Thank you very much. If you guys will, oh, you guys look familiar. If you'll give us your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Nick King. I'm the applicant. I'm from 21 Hayden Street in Nashua.
Okay.
D. Shea, 19 Crestwood Drive, Hollis.
He's the owner. So our project's located at 2426 Winter Street. We just got approval from the zoning board for the special exception to get to multifamily, as well as a variance for density bonus required to do so. The property in question was previously assessed as a 3-unit building for the last 15 years, so since 2009, and has been functioning as such. However, when the client went in to do renovations to the property and pull a permit, we were notified by the building department that it was actually only a 2-unit building, as recognized by the building department. There was no proper channels kind of executed to do the previous work. So we're looking to hopefully rectify the last 15 years of misuse of the property and bring the building up to the kind of proper standard of the town to go through all the necessary improvements.
Thank you. Any questions?
So you're just looking to make it a 3-unit?
Yeah, so it's, by the building department, it's a 2-unit. It has functioned as a 3-unit for 15
And
years.
no more than 3?
Correct,
Okay,
so
thank
we're
you.
looking to
Yeah.
just make it
Thank you.
compliant.
Looking to make whatever existed before legal.
Right, I got you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Okay, we'll open up a public hearing at 8:29:30. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address this application, one way or the other? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 8:29:47. Any questions, comments, anybody?
As part of the zoning board, I was out there to look at the property. They're doing a great job. It's been 3 apartments, and they're really renovating it. They're doing good, so I'm in favor of it.
Okay, we'll go right to staff then.
I'll go over the findings of fact. The application is complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations. The zoning board of adjustment granted a variance for the density and a special exception for the multifamily use at its September 16th, 2024 meeting. And the application and site plan were reviewed by the technical review committee at its September 17th meeting. Their comments have been incorporated in the recommended conditions of approval.
And those recommended conditions are, first and foremost, the pre-construction requirements. All conditions in this section must be completed at least 2 weeks prior to commencing any work on site. The sewer service must be cleaned and inspected via CCTV. A certified inspection report must be submitted to the Department of Public Works for review and approval. 4 final plan sets must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the planning department. The final plan sets must include a floor plan for each unit. The applicant must possess all required permits and approvals granted by other municipal, state, and federal boards or agencies. All permits and approvals must be in place prior to the signing and recording of the final plans and Mylar. Should any permit or approval be revoked at any time during the project, all work must cease until a new permit or approval is obtained. Copies of all permits and approvals must be provided by the applicant to the planning department upon request. For the construction requirements, all the conditions in this section must be met during the construction of the project. The applicant must adhere to all specifications as required by the Laconia Fire Department, and all specifications for municipal water service required by the Water Department apply to all construction. For the post-construction requirements, these conditions must be met prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy. All construction and maintenance assessment fees must be paid to the Water Department. Impact fees in the amount of $3,481.37 per new multifamily dwelling unit must be paid to the Planning Department. In accordance with RSA 674-39, the applicant is exempt from any changes to impact fee rates for 5 years from the approval date. Should the project not be completed during the exemption period, the applicant must pay any and all increases to impact fees regardless of vestment status. An as-built design for each dwelling unit must be submitted to the Planning Department for review and approval in accordance with the city's policies and procedures at the time of submission. And for the completion date, the project and all associated conditions must be completed by no later than October 1st, 2029. If all conditions are not met, nor any extension application filed with the Laconia Planning Department by the completion date, this approval is null and void.
Well, thank you very much. I guess there are no other comments from the department. Nope. That covers everything, okay. Any final discussion? Comments? I'll look for a motion.
So moved, well, I move we accepted this as complete, right? I move to approve application PB 2025012 for 24 to 26 Winter Street with the conditions of approval presented in the staff report as read into the record.
Second. Thank you. Any more discussion? Go ahead, Mike.
All in favor?
Oh, that wasn't a discussion. I thought you had a question. I can say that. All in favor, raise your hands.
I
Wise
jumped it,
guy.
Charlie.
Okay, no, there's no opposition. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Oh, you know, before we move on, and well, they're still here, because this is being already assessed as a 3-family, are there really any impact fees?
So it was approved as a 2-unit before, so it'll be just the additional impact fee for the additional unit. now that
Okay,
we're making
I
it
just
legal.
didn't know how that worked. I just, for point of clarification, I didn't realize how that worked
Okay,
because
you
of the
guys are all
assessment.
set. Thank you very much.
But they're all set, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, so now we're gonna skip 7.5.
We should be on,
I'm sorry, you're right. We're at the 7.4. BP 2025-013 Endicott Street East, The Gardens.
Yep.
They're proposing to amend their approval site plan and construct 3 single-family units. Is the applicant here? And we're gonna vote to accept this application. Is there a motion to do so? Kristen?
Yes.
All right, I got a motion to accept, second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands. No opposition. Thank you very much. Okay, if you could introduce yourself, sir, and your address, please.
All right, good evening, Mr. Chair, Laconia Planning Board. I'm Jason Hill. I'm with TF Moran,
Okay.
or the engineers of record.
Please, wait, hold on a second. Savannah, is that the side to have that on, or should it be on the other side? Will it work on that side?
It would be better if you put it over there.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Is that okay?
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so, a lot of you look familiar. You were here when this was approved a few years ago. This is the Gardens. There's a condominium subdivision, Endicott Street East. This is just, if you're not familiar with the site, it's across the street from the old surf coaster, coming up the hill out of the weirs. It's under construction, the first phase. They've constructed several buildings, several units, but there's some occupancy, and we're simply looking, really due to the prevailing market conditions, we're looking to change what was 2 duplex units that were approved to single family, but a reduction of 1 unit. So we'd be going from 4 total units to 3, 2, which consisted of 2 duplex units, being converted to 3 single-family detached. In your packages, you should have a copy of this plan showing the area of the revision, which is along Skyview Lane, which is like the main road, loop road of the project. So that is the proposed change. We have agreed. I've reviewed all the proposed conditions of approval, which include amendments to the condominium plan and such, and master plan updates to reconcile. There was some 911 address discrepancies, so we're going to fix all that, and that's the sole request tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the applicant from anybody? Okay, we'll open up a public hearing at 8:37. If there's anybody in the room that would like to have a comment about the application before us, now's the time to come up. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 8:37:28. Thank you. Do you have any, no questions on anybody? Staff?
I'll do the findings of fact. The application is complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations. The planning board approved the current subdivision plat at its September 7th, 2021 meeting, and the application and subdivision plat were reviewed by the technical review committee at its September 17th meeting. Their comments have been incorporated into the recommended conditions of approval.
And those are, plans must be revised and submitted to the planning department with the correct abutter information for parcel 164-299-10. An updated subdivision plat must be provided to the planning department for review and approval. These documents must be recorded at the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense. An updated condominium plan must be provided to the planning department for review and approval. These documents must be recorded at the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense. The condo documents must be amended to reflect the change in units and provided to the planning department for review and approval. These documents must also be recorded at the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense. A single master plan must be provided to the planning department that correctly identifies the E911 address, a condominium unit number, and subdivision lot number for each dwelling unit. Digital copies of all plans and documents must be provided in addition to the required physical copies. The applicant must possess all required permits and approvals granted by other municipal, state, and federal boards or agencies. All permits and approvals must be in place prior to the signing and recording of the final plans in Mylar. Should any permit or approval be revoked at any time during the project, all work must cease until a new permit or approval is obtained. Copies of all permits and approvals must be provided by the applicant to the planning department upon request. Impact fees in the amount of $3,814.80 per single-family dwelling unit must be paid to the planning department. In accordance with RSA 674-39, the applicant is exempt from any changes to impact fee rates for 5 years from the approval date. Should the project not be completed during the exemption period, the applicant must pay any and all increases to impact fees regardless of investment status. An as-built design for each dwelling unit must be submitted to the planning department for review and approval in accordance with the city's policies and procedures at the time of submission. And all conditions from the notice of action from the September 7th, 2021 approval remain in effect.
I had a question whenever it's appropriate.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Just about, this is on the spot, but I think it was discussed at the TRC meeting. For the subdivision and condominium plat updates, I'd like to have those submitted prior to the CO issuance rather than prior to final planning board approval. That would just be allowed to allow those documents to be developed if and when they have buyers for the units. So I don't know if you had a time condition that was relevant to those plans being completed or not.
I think they need to be completed before we issue a building permit for them, because that's part of the confusion that has
That
happened.
will work as well.
Is assessing's having a hard time rectifying which ID it's going to.
Sure.
So
That would work for us. I just wanted to get everyone's opinion on that.
So then for the subdivision plat, condominium plan, and the master plan,
Yeah.
you want the condo documents as well before the building permit?
Yeah.
So
We can
those
do
4
that.
things before the building permit.
Yeah, we can do that. Thank you, if that's.
Okay,
pleasure
thank
of
you
the
very
board.
much. Okay, I'll, go ahead, Gail.
Enough for thing. On the original approval, and I don't know how this works, so this is really a staff question, Charlie. Looks like we originally approved 87 dwellings with a different impact fee.
So,
So how is that going to change? It's in yellow on our thing, and this is more for my
So-
own edification. It looked like the impact fees at that time were lower
So, yes.
than what they are
We
today.
adopted new impact fees in 2022, and this was done in 2021.
Right?
And I think they had in there,
$1,907 for the single families and $2,319.91 for the
right.
duplexes.
So that would have been at the 25% rate. That's what existed prior to us updating it. We then moved it up to the 50% of in the impact fee chart. Because originally when council had adopted impact fees, the number was set. This is what the impact is on the community. And the city council approved it at 25% of that number. Then in
Okay.
2022, I believe, is when they raised it to 50% of that number. So now that they're coming back and they're changing the units, so they're no longer building those duplexes, they're now building 3 single-family units. They're going to be assessed the new impact fee rate for those 3 units.
Those 3 units only,
Just those
not
3.
the whole project.
Correct.
Okay,
No, no,
that's
no.
what I wanted to
Correct.
know.
Yep.
Thank
Get
you.
to that question then.
Well, I just didn't understand how that worked. Now I do.
No, it's fine.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion. Come on, guys, you're slowing us up, and when somebody's gonna make a motion.
Make a motion to
All right.
accept it. And then
Just
probably
read the
Just read what they read. yeah.
Motion 2.
motion
Motion 2.
to accept.
Motion to accept PV 2025-013 Endicott Street East, condition for approval for the reduction from a duplex to 3 single-family homes. Is that?
Yeah, that'll cover it.
Second.
Been seconded by Counselor Cheney. All in favor? Raise your hands. No opposition. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good luck with
Thank you
that.
folks for your time, appreciate it.
Okay, so now we are at, we're at 7.6.
well, actually, we're at 7.5, and the board is going to need to vote to continue the next application until its November 4th planning board meeting.
Cut off at the legs again. Okay, I'll do
Sorry.
it. That's all right. So I'll look for a motion to continue,
I'll make that motion.
7.5. Seconded. Mike's shaking his head. Okay. All in favor? Okay, no opposition. Thank you very much. Okay, now I'll do 7.6. Thank you, Rob. This is BP 2025-016-205 Wentworth Cove Road. Applicant is proposing to extend their previous approval to construct a single-family home within the wetland buffer. We need a motion to accept the application. Gail,
I'll make that
I will
motion.
just,
you made that motion. It's looking for a second.
I'll do it.
Kristen seconded. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, it's been accepted. So now, If you introduce yourself and give us your address.
My name's Jim McDonald, and I'm the caretaker for these people.
And where do you live, sir?
I live in Northwood.
Northwood, okay. We just want to know where you're from, that's all.
All right, you guys are doing a
Okay,
good job.
so-
I'm impressed.
So go right ahead.
They just want a extension on their,
Yeah, I read there, they had a reason for the request, which we all have right here. I'm assuming that's what you're
yeah, that's,
along with. Crazy neighbor, okay, well, that's, that bears a lot of weight.
I understand.
Does anybody have any questions of the representative for the applicant? Okay, we'll open up this quickly to a public hearing to the large crowd at 8:45 for any commentary on this application. Seeing none, we'll close this at the public hearing at 8:45:50. Thank you. Any questions for the staff?
One, of course. Have there been any complaints to the planning department? I'm just reading her thing here, and I didn't know, sometimes you run into construction complaints. and-
Complaints about what, Gail?
Well, I'm just reading this. I'm hoping to
Okay, but
extend this for
complaint-
5 years because of crazy neighbors.
Okay,
Crazy
but-
neighbors
but-
complain to planning staff.
But Gail, if they have complaints about an applicant, they should be getting that to us before the meeting.
Okay, I'm asking.
Nobody has complained to us about any aspect of this project.
Wanna know?
Okay. Good question, but they should get this to us. Go ahead.
Will that subdivision that's approved through there, it's gonna be two hammerheads, one coming off Pendleton, one coming off Wentworth Cove. Is that gonna be continued to be Wentworth Cove through there on this end of it, where this application is? Or are they changing the name of that road?
Oh, I don't know that off the top of my head.
Just,
Okay, is there any more questions concerning this particular application for the extension of the time?
I just want clarification. It looks like it was approved in 14 or 19? 19?
Yeah.
And then, so that brings us to current date, and we're looking, the applicant's looking for another 5-year extension.
Yeah.
Staff, any commentary? Any
Um,
problems with that?
Nope, the application is consistent with state and city land use regulations, and the application and site plans were approved by the planning board. It's October 14th, 2014, and it's November 6th, 2019 meetings, and their comments remain recommended conditions of the approval. There's been no significant changes to our ordinance for our wetland CUP of what this is actually for the electrical conduit that they're proposing for their boat, or is it their
Okay.
boathouse?
to the dock.
To the dock.
Yeah, the only conditions we had were to amend the completion date to October 1st, 2029, and that all prior conditions from the November 6th, 2019 approval apply.
They just kept coming back for a 1 year, and it just made more sense to give them the flexibility since it was nowhere near to not come back every year.
I concur. Okay, I'll look for a motion on this, if there's no more discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve application PB 2025-016 for 205 Wentworth Cove Road with the conditions of approval presented in the staff report.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Gail. Any more discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. That's 5 in the, excuse me, that's 6 in the affirmative, so we're good to go with that. Thank you very much.
hey, thank you.
Good luck. I thought that guy was gonna come up and ask us, so you're all set. Yeah, no. Just covering all the bases. Okay, do we have any presentations
Two
tonight?
different lots, side by side.
Any presentations tonight? Nope. Okay, planning department report, go ahead.
So I just want to highlight, it's been an exceptionally busy month, this month in the planning department. We had multiple meetings with DEA this month, which is the Business and Economic Affairs Division within the state, and Invest NH, looking at HOP grant opportunities and possibly rewriting our master plan. We also looked into making some, looking at the Housing Champion program, which we're not going to pursue at this time, but we looked at what that would entail. We haven't had any admin reviews this month, still no minor site plan applications, And the TIF is working on a downtown lighting plan. So hopefully that'll be come to finalize in the next few months. And maybe put that to city council sometime in the next few months. So it's very exciting. Zoning board was pretty busy. That I kind of have a little summary in there. We have finished a review of the impact fee contract. That's being sent back to the contractor. We're just waiting for them to agree or disagree with our proposed contract. And that's about what I have in my monthly report.
Yeah, Conservation Commission meets tomorrow.
I'm sorry?
Conservation Commission meets tomorrow where there's no CUPs, but I believe there is gonna be a discussion on, invasive species from, I think maybe someone's coming up from
Okay,
the
so you're
water
giving that
department.
on the liaison reports?
Yeah, that's all I've got.
Okay,
Like I
I didn't
said,
know we were in
if
there,
anyone
so-
wants to go,
Jumping right ahead there, go ahead.
If we could just, we've been doing a lot of research, and I should say we. I have an excellent assistant planner who does an exceptional amount of research in our zoning ordinance and things that we should be doing that we're not doing, or laws that have changed that changed a long time ago that we're not really following, that we should be following. I just want to give him the opportunity to discuss his findings as it comes to workforce housing.
Thanks, Rob. As Rob mentioned, we'd been doing a lot of studying and researching the past month. And I kind of gave a little summary here about workforce housing requirements in the state of New Hampshire that municipalities are required to follow, especially those that have adopted land use ordinance and regulations, which we have. And the state also has definitions that municipalities are supposed to follow as well. I've highlighted, I think, that the three biggest ones there. When we say affordable housing as a department, what we would mean would be what the state outlines in their land use regulations and statutes, which is essentially that, for something to be affordable, it shouldn't exceed 30% of a household's gross annual income. And obviously that would apply across the board, right? What's affordable for you might not be affordable for me, so that's gonna vary. Where the workforce housing definition comes into play, the state actually defines that in greater detail. And they break it up into two different types of housing: ownership versus rental. And essentially, for ownership, what would be affordable to a household with an income of no more than 100% of the median income for a four-person household for the metropolitan area that HUD designates. So for us, our metropolitan area would be Belknap County. So when you go to HUD's website, they'll provide the AMI for a family of four, which I also, on the reverse of this summary, have laid out what that number is. So for Belknap County, for a family of four, their area median income is $107,400. And in order to meet the state's definition of workforce housing, that would equate to $2,685 a month for the mortgage, insurance, and taxes on the property. And then the state defines a separate number for rentals that are considered workforce housing. And that is based off of a three-family area median income, and at 60% of that. And based off of that, HUD has designated Belknap County at $58,020. That's the 60% of what HUD has dedicated us at. So if you take 30% of that, that's coming to $1,450.50 a month for both rent and utilities. That would be the maximum limit of workforce housing for our city. And then I just provide some statistics about how that's increased over the years as well, from before COVID to now. And we're seeing a 32% increase from 2019 for both of those numbers today. And the city of Laconia is required by state statute to provide reasonable and realistic opportunities for the development of workforce housing. It doesn't really say what that looks like, because that's different for every community. However, I think, in recent years, we've started to see more and more cases in the judiciary be decided at really with different results. I mean, some are more strict requirements, some are less. And based off of the statutes that are outlined specifically for workforce housing, there's a different appeals process than what normally we would follow. So if somebody is proposing workforce housing and the planning board denies it, there's a separate appeal process that they would have to take. And it's, well, quite frankly, less strict than what it normally would be. So that's also something to consider as well. Yeah, I just wanted to basically provide a short summary of the state's requirements and answer any questions that people might have regarding what we mean when we say affordable and workforce
Right.
housing.
The only question I have is there any programs out there for workforce housing ownership? By that, I mean, there are programs out there to subsidize rental income. We have a number of them in the community. Lakes Region Community Developers handles most of them. For the most part, I think they do a good job. But I'm saying, is there any program money that provides a path to ownership for a smaller house? And when I say that, I think in mind of, like, if you look at Lower Lafayette, where I used to live, and along that way, there are quarter-acre lots with, I grew up in a house of about 1,000 square feet. It was considered a starter home, but my folks opted to stay there for the rest of their lives because it was perfect size for them as the kids grew. But, you know, we had baffle moors. That was probably the worst thing that happened in our house. But I'm saying, are there any paths to ownership for people, not just a rental, but it allows someone in that income range of $100,000, $110,000 jointly to actually own a home, to get their toehold in the American dream? Anything out there?
So as far as those programs go, I'm not entirely sure about that. I mostly look at it from a planning and zoning perspective
No, I
of how
know.
do we spur, you know,
Right.
more affordable.
I think it's more of an issue of builders, because you look at, right now, I think rule of thumb is it's $350 a square foot to build.
Yeah.
So if a guy's gonna put the effort into building, he's gonna build 3,000 square feet, one, because he can recoup his money quicker.
You know, and
The issue.
I think that's very accurate. And I think there also, I think it was on WMUR tonight, they talked about lot sizes.
Yeah.
And, you know, reducing some of the lot sizes to help make the land more affordable so you can
Well,
make that
In the
development
city,
cheaper.
other than the North End, you know, we have the infrastructure. It's old. I'm not gonna agree with that. We've raised our impact fees to try to offset some of that. We're gonna need some sewer and water upgrades if we continue with our infill. Like, as Mike pointed out, we're adding a lot of units on Union Avenue. At some point, we're gonna hit a critical mass where they're gonna have to redo that again. They've just redone it, but we have to move forward, stay on top of that. And impact fees go towards that program. That's why we have impact fees.
Actually, interestingly enough, I had a discussion with Public Works about a lot of our infrastructure. And they feel, for the most part, within our urban core in the urban commercial district, the RA and the RG districts, that we could almost double our density, and that our infrastructure would support that. Which would actually,
No,
you
that's
know,
good news.
help reduce the urban sprawl that we have to preserve some of the green space that we have in the areas we really don't want to develop while keeping development in our core. On the inverse of that is, I think it was said during our meeting tonight, that when you increase density, there's only one way to go with density. If you don't want to sprawl it out, it can only go in one direction, and that is up. So the reality is, as you try to preserve your green space, your only option is to go up.
Well, it's not just your green space either you try to preserve. I just want to point that out. We're also trying to preserve certain areas.
Yeah, and
Yes.
character.
Because we have some
Thank you.
corridors that we very much want to preserve, and some areas out in those corridors that we do want to preserve. So keeping development contained to a
Certain areas.
certain area would really help us do that. So, just food for
Well,
thought.
Keeping an eye on the time here, everybody. We've approached our deadline of 9 o'clock quickly here, so if we can move along, just the last things. And Rob, I want to tell both you and Tyler, that just the stuff you've got all written out for us is great. Really helps us, and I recommend everybody keep that information. So, we've already heard from the conservation. Anybody from Lakes Region Planning? I don't believe there is.
I went.
Go ahead.
Mostly the talk there is, there seems to be a ton of money for brownfields, and we don't really qualify for anything there. Franklin's got a huge amount of brownfield renovation stuff going on, but nothing that really affected us.
What's a
Okay.
brownfield?
What's a brownfield? Contamination that's not like a Superfund site, but right now they're working on that project on the river that was the Stanley Hacksaw Factory. Have you ever been on where all the old hacksaws blades were in the river? They're working on cleaning that up.
Don't they disappear and rust away?
You hope that would happen, but it's like when the earth was flat and you pushed it off the edge and it fell out.
Okay, city council?
Nothing.
Okay. Historical District Commission, we're still slowly crawling with that. Any other business?
Let's introduce our new members, Charlie.
Well, I haven't got to that, because that was gonna be the last thing I did. Any other business here besides that? So we do have two new members here, for the audience watching at home. We have nobody here now, but, if you guys could just give your names and just a little bit of quick background, go ahead.
My name is Dave Willett. I lived in the north end of Laconia and have lived in Laconia for 62 years. So Laconia is very near and dear to me, and I was encouraged to get involved, and at first I questioned, what am I doing? But after sitting through a meeting tonight, I'm excited to be on the planning board. And I want to make
good. That's
myself
good to
available
hear.
to people of the city of Laconia if they have questions, comments. My contact information is out there, and want to be able to be available.
Well, 62 years qualifies you as a survivor, so congratulations. And how about you, Christine?
I'm Kristen Bastille, and I just recently bought a house in Laconia, but I've worked in Laconia for 17 or 18 years, and I own Defiant Records and Craft Beer on Main Street. So I just hit 3 years, and I've enjoyed working with the community. Everyone's been welcoming, everyone's been supportive, and I hold Laconia near and dear to my heart now, so I decided to give it a shot.
Welcome to both of you.
Yes, and I'm,
Thank you for
yeah,
being willing to participate.
Thank you.
your check's in the mail.
Thank you. That's what I
Very
was
high
hoping
pay
for.
on that.
I wanna thank both of you for coming on, and we had a good meeting tonight, so you got some good exposure tonight, I think.
Yeah, that was fun.
So I guess with that, we'll, thank you all, and we'll,
Charlie, real
Yes.
quick. CIP starts Thursday this week. Thursday, 6:30 p.m. So, for those that volunteered to be there,
what's the date this Thursday? And then there's another meeting the following
the
Thursday?
3rd. Yep, the 3rd, the 10th, 17th.
That's gonna be a problem for some of us, because you have a candidates night over here that people are gonna be attending, but we'll talk about that. Anyway, yeah, there is a CIP meeting tomorrow, or this Thursday night at 6:30?
6:30.
6:30,
What
right
is
here.
CIP?
Right here, capital improvement.
Program.
Oh,
All right, well, thank you. Look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor, raise your hands. 6 in favor. Thank you.